Hi, I teach junior and senior high school English in Japan, and I want to talk about some activities that are surprisingly not as good as you might think. When we're teaching English, we focus on the four skills of language: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And in our classes, we have a bunch of activities where students use those skills, and then we build on the vocabulary and the complexity, and students get better and better at speaking English. But there are some activities that you can do that don't do much with the four skills, or they do it really, really slowly. And sometimes those activities are fun and interesting, so you might do them, but you want to be careful that you're not doing them very much because they're just horribly inefficient. The first one that I noticed is a word search. You have a grid of letters and a list of words, and students try to find those words somewhere in the grid and they circle them. And if you ask what students are practicing, they're almost reading a little, but not really. It's kind of like pre-reading, ABC practice, and then they're practicing a little vocabulary. But it's not a good way to practice reading for junior or high school students because they learned the ABCs when they were in third grade of elementary school. So if you're going to do a word search, probably you don't want to do it very often. Although if you were teaching younger students, elementary school students, then you might want to do them more. The second activity is a music listening activity. Give students a worksheet with some words on it. Put them in pairs, they listen to a song, and when they hear the word being sung, then they race to circle it. So students are competing against each other to listen and circle words in a sheet of paper. And it's a genuine listening activity. The problem is that it's very slow. If students are looking at a list of 10 words and they listen to a 3-minute song, well, that's 10 words in 3 minutes. But if you just had a conversation for 30 seconds, you might use 30 or 40 or 50 words. So you probably don't want to do the music word listening activity on its own. Maybe if you can tie it into something afterwards, that could be good. So if the song that you're choosing has some lyrics that connect with the theme for that day, then you can justify spending 3 minutes listening to it at the beginning and circling words. And there are some other activities that initially seem like they're using one of the skills, but end up not using it much, and instead use a different one. The most vivid example is a crossword. So if you have a crossword where you have some clues in English at the bottom, and then there's the crossword grid and students fill in words to fit the clues, at first you might think it's a writing activity, but in reality, students write so little compared with how much time they spend in the whole thing that it's not much of a writing activity. It's much better as a reading activity because when students are reading the clues, that's what's going to occupy most of the time. And depending on how you have the clues set up, there could be some good critical thinking going on if the clues are tricky ones. So a crossword is an example of something that at first glance seems like it's a writing activity because it does involve writing, but it doesn't involve much writing compared with how much time is spent on the overall worksheet, and actually it's much more of a reading activity. When we're choosing activities, it's important to think about which of the four skills does this activity target? What are students doing? Which of the four skills are they using when they do this activity? And are they using those skills a lot or just a little? And if we have an activity that's inefficient, then we don't want to do it very often, or maybe never. Maybe we can replace it with something that is a lot more involved and helps our students learn language quickly. Anything.